What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastical episode of Blerdkast Live. And tonight we have another very special episode to continue our celebration into Black History Month. But before I continue and introduce everyone, I would like to do a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have not, please subscribe to Moana Nui podcast and Blerdography for more amazing videos, and become a channel member today so you can help support Blerdography's journey to BlerdCon 2026. So if you have not become a channel member, you can do so by hitting the join button below. And before I forget, I would like to introduce my co-host and mod for this evening. Let's all have a moment of joy with Miss Joy Stevens.
Good evening, and thank you so much for everyone being here. Welcome, everyone. I'm excited about our show tonight. So, as you mentioned, I am Joy Stevens, known everywhere online as Joyride08. And I'll explain that 08 to you later, but I want to take a moment to introduce the rest of our panel. And so rather than me stumbling through your names and your credentials, I'm going to start with the person on top, just next to me, Tom Cunningham. Please tell the people who you are.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Cunningham, and I am a proud graduate of Florida A&M University, and I pledged the Alpha Z chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi while I was on the yard there in the spring of 1989, and among other things that, that's a T-Rex on my back. Among other things, I do a podcast with Joy, but I also produce digital events, and I just love commenting on nerd culture, pop culture, in film, television, comic books, all of that.
Yeah, actually, Tom, you've been on our Moana Nui After Dark, What You Watching series before. I forget what we were reviewing at the time, but I remember you got into it with Dana or somebody. You was cutting up, which we love on all of our shows. I'm going to go around to CC, the MVP. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Soro. I appreciate that. My name is Chana Lawson. Some people know me as CC, the MVP. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a proud graduate of the Bowie State University, the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland. Graduated in 2009, and I also pledged Delta Sigma Theta at the Zealous Zeta Delta chapter on the campus of Bowie State University in spring 2008. I also attended graduate school at Howard University, where I studied sociology and history. And I think that covers it. And I'm the founder and CEO of the HBCU convention, also known as HBCU Con.
Nice. And when is that happening?
Oh, appreciate that. HBCU Geek Fest is happening Sunday, June 7th. You can see it at the bottom. And for tickets, you can go to our Instagram or our Facebook page at HBCU Con. I appreciate that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Hi, Gavin. And then next up, we have Isiah.
Hello. Good evening. Is it on? I am Isiah Perry. I'm from the historic city of Selma, Alabama. I use this he, him pronouns. I went and graduated from the Alabama State University, 915 South Jackson Street, Montgomery, Alabama, 36104. I am a spring 2015 initiate of the Gangsta Beta chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And I also am a proud HBCU marching band alumni as well. I marched with the Alabama State University Mighty Marching Hornets. So the price of glory will always, if ever, will be high.
Okay. Coming around the horn to James.
Buenas noches and bienvenidos. Oh, sorry, wrong show. I graduated from Morehouse College, as you can see in the background, in class of 99. I have a degree in mathematics, which oftentimes gets me in situations I don't like. And heavily into geek and nerd culture. I do a number of shows here with the Moana Nui Network, including Geek Speak on Sports, What You Watching After Dark, History, and opinionated variants of the 616.
Okay, and I will introduce myself again because now that I've heard everybody else, I got to step my game up. So I am Joy Stevens. I am a alumna of the illustrious Spelman College. I graduated in 1996. Although I was class in 95, I did a 5-year program. And I pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, spring 1998 in Jackson, Tennessee, alumni chapter. which is also where Lane College is, which is another HBCU.
Mhm.
And I am now, like everyone else mentioned, I do a podcast called Steel Sharp and Steel with Tom Cunningham on Thursday nights, but almost every other night on something for Blerdography or for Moana Nui. So this three is me and James' show. We do What You Watching. Sometimes I go into the sports channel just to mess with them because I don't even know what's going on. I just be in there talking crazy sometimes. You should watch it. It's really fun. And yeah, all the other stuff too. So I'm excited to have this conversation tonight. And based on everything I heard so far, we're going to have a multi-layered conversation when talking about HBCU. So the first, I think, and probably the most obvious question is, considering our relative ages, aside from a different world, what made you want to attend an HBCU? And that's open for anybody that wants to start.
Well, a different world wasn't as much a thing yet. When I came to an HBCU, I stepped on the yard in 86.
Jurassic World.
Correct. As a 17-year-old. And what I can say is the thing that brought me to an HBCU first and foremost was I grew up in predominantly white enclaves throughout my entire life. My dad was military. And then when he segued out of the military into corporate America, we moved from military bases into suburbs, and those suburbs were predominantly white. And so my exposure to other Black folks was limited to going to see grandma at Christmas and the occasional encounter with my cousins. Like when we lived in Connecticut, I had cousins in New Jersey that we would see. But by the time I was graduating high school, FAMU offered me a full scholarship. I went down to visit the campus, and I was very excited about it. And coming from the Midwest, I really literally had a perception that Florida was a mile wide with beach on both sides. And little did I know that Tallahassee is in the Panhandle and there's no beach. But it was still cool. I love my time at FAMU, and that was really my story. Full scholarship, outstanding educational opportunity, and that's what took me to Tallahassee.
Okay. Anybody else?
Let me backtrack. My mom is one of 6, and pretty much all of them went to an HBCU. Clark Atlanta, Howard, Wilberforce, to name 3 off the top of my head. I'm blanking on the rest. But I legit, because my mom, after she graduated from Howard University, worked there in their financial aid department for a number of years up through when I went to high school. And I guess you call it like K through 5 years, I literally grew up on Howard's campus. Like in the summertime, she would bring me to work if there was nothing else going on, just to not have me and my sister in the house solo causing trouble. So we legit grew up on Howard's campus. And then when I got to high school, I needed a safe space void of 11 by 8s, 18s, if you will. And I had no intentions on choosing a PWI whatsoever. My high school was ROTC optional, and I remember the day the senior Army instructor pulled me out of class because he didn't realize that I was like top 10-ish grade-wise in my graduating class in high school, and was talking about writing letters of recommendation to any military academy I wanted to go to. And I just stood there at ease, stoic, stone-faced, not responding to him whatsoever. And was like, 1, I'm not going to a military academy whatsoever. 2, my mom's already got a handle on getting me to college. And 3, I'm definitely going to an HBCU. And, asked him if he was done, walked out of his office. And then my decision just came down to 6 HBCUs, and I chose Morehouse.
Yeah. You should have told him, man, I need you to go straight and make a left and then go 200 feet and make a right. And that's where you find when you got me.
I was 18 at the time. That I thought hadn't crossed my mind. and it wouldn't have been that poignant.
I got you. Isiah, what about you? Or CC, either one of you.
For me,
Go ahead, Isiah.
Sure, no problem. For me, my journey to Alabama State really started when I first went to a Battle of the Bands competition in Montgomery, Alabama, when the high school Battle of the Bands used to come around, and then the collegiate side performed, and seeing Alabama State come on field, seeing Florida A&M, seeing Bethune-Cookman, seeing Tuskegee at that time, and I was like, wait a minute, what kind of schools are these? I want to do this. I got to do this. But it wasn't until, picture it, Sicily, Magic City Classic 2006 in Birmingham, Alabama, when I was sponsored, mind you, the sponsor was Food World. So if you know anything about the South and know about Food World, one of the grocery stores here, that's what it was, and that's who the sponsor was. And I remember very much vividly seeing Alabama State march in and seeing the essence of and the command of the attention, because everybody I was wondering why. Here I am as a kid wondering why is everybody so much running to see them march in, but I understood why. So for me, Alabama State was just like, it was close to home. I'm from Selma to Montgomery is only maybe an hour ride away. I had access to resources because my mom and dad knew people in Montgomery, so I was safe. Alabama State also offered me a tuition scholarship and a marching band scholarship. So I was like, hey, that's money. Let's go. I'm going. So, and on top of that, it was just like in the process of me being at Alabama State and going back and tracking the school history, I did not know that my grandmother on my dad's side was actually a part of the Alabama State's inception. Because at the time, Alabama State did not start off at Alabama State University. It wasn't always in Montgomery. It was in Marion, Alabama. So, and then back doing it, and she was a student in the early 1900s. So to see that, to have that piece of history, and knew that she was a part of that inception, and now here it is. We got all these years later. Her grandson is not a one, but a two-time graduate of Alabama State University from the College of Education. So, and I just like, you know what? Yeah, Bama State was home for me. There was no other choice.
It sounds like it. It's a great story. You know, you got your multi-generation. There's somebody else that was in the chat that said they were multi-generational Alabama State as well. Yeah. Y'all.
I would just add really quickly that my grandfather and each of his 8 siblings went to HBCUs. The boys went to Wiley and the girls went to Prairie View. And my grandfather was on the Great Debaters team under Tolson. So nice. there was some deep root. He pledged FIA, but
you can't win them all. But it's interesting because my dad's best friend, Otis King, was also on that Great Debaters team. Small world.
Wow.
Yeah, There's a picture of them in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, he was on the team with Farmer and the other folks that were depicted in the film, and he's in the special, the little special additional things. There's a picture of him in there. So the HBCU stuff was running deep, and a lot of my mom's second cousins, so the children of her first cousins, were Morehouse Spelman. So we've got a lot of that history running through the family.
Cece, I'm gonna give you a chance to answer, and then I have another question for all of y'all.
Appreciate that. So my story is very much aligned with James in the sense that I pretty much grew up on an HBCU campus. My mom went to UDC. My dad went to Bowie State. His sister also went to Bowie State. She also pledged Zeta Delta Spring '83, and she also served as Miss Bowie State University from, I believe, 1984 to '85. So it was very much a part of my life for a long time, actually. The HBCU experience was probably the only college experience I knew. It wasn't until I was probably like 10 when I met my best friend. Her mom worked at the University of Maryland. So that's when I started to kind of see the juxtaposition between the PWI experience, particularly in Division I schools versus the HBCU experience. My father was a campus police officer at Bowie. So I pretty much would go with him to work, and they would call me Little Lawson because they always addressed each other by their last name. And he, as part of his job, he organized security for special events. So anytime there was a game, and he also would do detail assignments at Howard University as well. So he would do the security at the basketball games, and he will often take me with him. So I pretty much grew up, and I actually spent most of my early childhood living in what's known as the Petworth area of Washington, D.C., which is about 5 minutes up the street from Howard University. So it was kind of, pretty much what it was. My stepmom went to Grambling, and she got her master's at Virginia State. So it was just always around me. And at the same time, I was going to DC public schools, which was kind of like very much like a HBCU and how it was conducted at that time, especially when DC was considered Chocolate City. It was 80% Black. You saw Black historical figures all over the wall, not just during Black History Month, but throughout the year, like in the main hallways, you know what I mean? And kind of going from that to move into the suburbs, it was a lot of contrast. And I almost kind of went through like a little bit of an identity crisis, especially because of my ambiguous appearance. People didn't really know how to categorize me, but that's another story for another day. And essentially, when I was in high school, a lot of the Black teachers, they had a W.E.B. Du Bois Honor Society, and they really honed in on a lot of the teachers who were involved in that program, really honed in on HBCUs, primarily because W.E.B. Du Bois himself is a graduate of Fisk University. They were the ones who really pushed it. And honestly, Bowie was the only HBCU I applied for. And it was kind of disrespectful because I really did it as like, okay, I'm going to do it. If I don't get into all the others, because most of the schools I were applying for were like bigger, more competitive, more expensive, all that. And once I got the acceptance letter from Bowie, they offered me a full scholarship. They offered me an academic scholarship. And I had a conversation with my middle school history teacher, who's a Black lady named Miss Dobson, bless her heart. And she pretty much convinced me. She was like, take the money. Like, that was kind of like her argument. But that one decision that I made changed the course of my life, like forever, and to this day, every decision that I make is influenced by not just my HBCU experience, but by the experience of like folks like yourselves, right? And people in my family. And I also want to shout out my cousin, Andrea Newman, who's the current Miss Bowie State University. And she was elected early this year. She's also my soror as well from Zeta Delta. Very excited. Nice. Yes. It's a great time.
Awesome. That actually brings me to my next question. I'm going to give you, so earlier I said, aside from a different world, what made you, want to go? I will say that absolutely influenced my decision in 1991 to go to Spelman. But I was very practical about what I wanted to do after high school because I needed to get away. That was the goal. Leave, get out where I needed to be. So I narrowed it down. I wanted to be somewhere in the South because I was comfortable in the South. I didn't want to go too far north because I didn't want snow in the cold. I needed to be somewhere far enough away where my parents couldn't get to me in a couple of hours. So they couldn't sneak up on me on the weekends and whatnot. But also I needed to be able at least to like drive home if I needed to. So Atlanta was looking real good. Atlanta. So I chose Atlanta first. Then I was like, what's in Atlanta? Well, Spelman is there and Clark. And so I was looking at both of them. And I heard a lot of people talk about scholarships. My mother was in the school system in Houston. And one of her really good friends who was a counselor, one of the other, I went to a really good school, but she was at one of the other magnet schools. And she said there was this program for women in science and engineering. And it was called WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, sponsored by NASA. So I got a full ride NASA scholarship to go into a science and an engineering. So you did 3 years at Spelman, 2 years at Georgia Tech. You got 2 degrees. So I got a chemistry degree and a chemical engineering degree, all on the government because NASA paid for everything. And it was the best decision of my life. But it really was, how can I get so far that my mom don't show up? That was my goal on the weekends. And typical sheltered child, I cut up my freshman year. And then I was like, oh, I can't lose this scholarship. Let me study and some stuff. But yeah, that was my story. And so I love the way we all came to it from different ways. It wasn't until I was in Spelman that I realized what an HBCU really was. And then retroactively realized that both my parents went to Texas Southern. It didn't dawn on me that Texas Southern University was an HBCU. It was just a college up the street. I really lived like a mile away from TSU. The church I went to growing up is like right off University of Houston's campus. And so that whole little area is like bougie Black Houston. And I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta. I didn't pledge in college, but I did pledge grad. But when I was growing up, I was a member of of a program called Top Teens, which is kind of a forerunner to Del Teens, Delta Gems, what we have now. And what the Deltas did for me when I was an introverted, nerdy, bullied girl is one of the reasons I wanted to be a Delta, because I wanted to help somebody else in that same way. You know, meeting in one Delta Plaza, like my whole like middle school, and not making the connection that the Deltas own that building, right? So yeah, just clueless, just running through life clueless, but it all worked out, you know. But Cece, something you said around how that one decision changed your life. And I think about where I might be if I had gone to Prairie View or Texas Southern in Houston, or even Rice, because that was also something I was looking at, because Rice, I had the grades and everything to get into Rice, but it wouldn't have been full scholarship. But anyway, tell me, other people, how has that decision to go to an HBCU, or how has being a graduate or an alumni, how has that affected your adult life?
Well, speaking for myself, I can say that attending FAMU has dramatically impacted almost every aspect of my professional life, because the way I nerded out at FAMU was to be a member of the Honda Campus All-Star Challenge team. And we were national champions the second year of the program, which was our first year of participation in the program. And after I graduated, they hired me. And I moved out to California on the strength of my performance and their perception that I would be a valuable participant in the company. And so I moved out to California because I attended an HBCU. And, you know, back in 86, 87, nerd culture had not yet turned into what it is now. And so, you know, cosplay for Black folks, I guess in particular, was not a thing. So I had a whole bunch of comic books at home. I was a big fan of Star Trek and, you know, the other sci-fi things that were available to me. But it wasn't like, you know, WonderCon or even Comic-Con was something that was accessible to me. So since I had played academic bowl in high school, it was natural for me to pursue Honda Campus All-Star Challenge. And like I say, playing that game, participating in that program, and it's even though I've kind of strayed and come back a couple of times, I'm now back at Honda Campus All-Star Challenge. So I'm in contact with 70 HBCUs and facilitating a program which empowers other bright young HBCU minds in a competitive space that has been existing for the past 37 years. So like directly, had I gone to Harvard or Michigan State or any of the other places where I've been accepted, if I had gone there, I never would have played Honda Campus All-Star Challenge, and the entire vector of my life would be dramatically different.
Right. That's amazing. One decision can change everything. You mentioned, well, Isiah, did you want to say something?
I did.
Go ahead.
For me, being that I'm an educator and being that I went to an HBCU, it definitely has impacted my life greatly, because I can operate spaces on the education realm that most people would not have access to. And on top of that is the fact that I'm able to teach another generation about why I went to this HBCU and put it out there. And me, even in my own classroom, I don't talk about Alabama State University. I talk about all the other schools as well too, because I'm a full believer and a full proponent, supporter of all HBCUs. Now, will there be times where I may shade one HBCU or two? Yeah, because that's going to happen. That's family. That's what we do.
Family.
That's family. That's what we do. But at the end of the day, I loved my experience, and because number one, majority of my teachers, as I went through K-12, went to Alabama State University. So, and it didn't dawn on me until I got to high school. It's like, you know what? Education is where you want to go. And it seems like to me, the school to become a teacher is ASU. And ASU used to have an advertisement that used to run that was running on the radio, that was running on TV, and it had a line and it had a motto at the time that I always took with me and stayed with me. It said, "When we teach class, the world takes note." And I was like, you know what? That's gonna stick with me. That's gonna be my mantra, and that's gonna be the mantra I apply to the next generation that comes behind me. When I teach class, they will take note.
I
So
love it.
that's the thing about how it affected me, especially being a black male teacher, and then on top of that, I teach elementary school, which is a rare to find, especially a black male that wants to do it too in today's time.
In this
So
economy?
in this economy. So yeah, even in the fact of when I travel, when I tell people that I went to Alabama State University, they're like, then they hit me with, oh, you mean Roll Tide? Oh no, sir. No, go Hornets is what you meant. So when I walk into the room and then like when I'm in a majority white space, when I tell them I went to Alabama State University, oh, okay. But when they sit at the table with me and I can regurgitate information a whole lot better and more efficiently than you can. When I know how to teach kids that look like me, and then turn around and teach kids that look like you, and wonder why they want to come to my class and get out of yours, that should tell you something.
We could do a whole nother show about Black educators.
Facts.
We're gonna hold that thought.
We'll hold that one.
Black educators just in general. But I want to get into, because this is called, HBCU alum in like nerdy spaces. And I do want to talk about that because one of the beautiful things about going to an HBCU is everybody looks like you. And you're free to be as smart as you want to be without having to dim your light or dumb it down or stay in your place for anybody else. Matter of fact, when I went to Spelman, I was like, I was ranked number 1 in my school. They were like, yeah, and everybody's ranked number 1. You ain't, don't nobody care, right? Do better. And it was a different type of challenge, right? But I didn't see a lot of people doing some of the like sci-fi stuff that I was doing. Like I hadn't found my sci-fi crew. As a matter of fact, I didn't find any of the girls at Spelman that were into nerd stuff. Like I was playing Sega Genesis at the time and Super Nintendo. And so I would have to go over to Morehouse to find the Morehouse nerd boys. And we would sit around, watching somebody play Super Mario Kart or what was the one? The one with all the blood when it first came out.
Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat.
Thank you. We watched each other play Mortal Kombat and everything. And I'm kicking tail, right? Because I can hold my own with everybody else, which is good and bad. Some guys are like, oh, wow, a girl that plays video games until you beat them. And then they don't want to talk to you no more. Apparently, being a dude at a video game emasculates them some kind of way. I feel like do better. I'm telling you, that's what Spelman's always do better. You can do better. But I'm babbling too much. What I want to find out from all of y'all is how did you get into nerdy stuff? First of all, you can answer that question, and or how did you find your people like your other Black folks that were into it? How did you find your other blurs, if you will?
I'll take this one first. Going to Morehouse, I went a semester early because I got into a summer program, Summer Science Academy. I am blanking on the name of the program now.
McNair?
It wasn't McNair. It was Math Science something.
Okay.
Was the name of it. McNair. We did interact with the McNair scholars that summer, though. And you go down there for a summer, roughly 6+ weeks ish. You take a math, a science, and a math. Math, science, and English class. For those 6 weeks. So it's kind of like, and if you did well, you got early college credit. Well, that program was just me and 11 other guys. And we interacted with the ladies at Spelman who were in their respective Summer Science Academy, McNair scholars, and PSP. Was it PSP? I think it was. And, so it wasn't like we were isolated from Spelman, but interacting with them, it felt good not being, like you said earlier, for me, it felt good not being the smartest person in the room anymore. Because I get bored easily and my attention span will wane and drift off like in someplace else. So 1, that was good. 2, meeting women that actually wanted to interact with me for the fact that I was intelligent, still am to some extent. And like you said, being in the sci-fi, I met women who loved The Outer Limits, who loved X-Files, who wanted to play video games, at least know more about them. They were into comic book characters. One of the things that a couple of women that I associated with my freshman year pretty much didn't want to hang out till after X-Men went off.
Oh yeah, don't call me till X-Men is over.
So, that was cool. And then, back in the olden days, for the young people who don't understand this, we would go to Blockbuster up the street from campus and find anime to rent, and was like, whose room are we hanging out in to watch this movie? So we watched Ninja Scroll, Wicked City, Vampire Hunter D, Fist of North Star, all these animated movies. Of course, Akira over and over and over again. I hate that movie now, but just to be in that environment where you're meeting people who are into the same things that you are, who want to talk about the same things, and not just okay, yeah, we're smart academically, but we're also into this whole sci-fi, nerdy, geeky stuff that otherwise would have ostracized us in high school to some extent, and have that interaction. So for me, it was more of a social awakening, if you will, to not just meet other Black folks, especially males who were interested in it, because in high school it's like, nah, you can't talk about this because the girls won't want to talk to you. And then get to college, not only is it just encouraging, it's just pretty much like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. Like, I'm going to be out and about and loud about, I love Star Trek or Star Wars or both. Cleopatra 2099 or, whatever else was on at the time, whatever. And I know I'm dating myself with some of these older shows, but these are the things that were on, Friday the 13th, the series and everything. It was like, whoever had a TV in their room, it was like you get paired up to try to watch the same things that each other liked and just hang out and do that.
That is true. Like everybody was glued to the TV Thursday night, right? But then some of us would stay up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 at like 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. I forget when it came on Cartoon Network, but yeah, that was another one of those like just weird, stupid, nerdy things. It was like a moment of time. And it was one of those things like if people knew about it, then they were cool and they knew about it. But then if they didn't, no sweat if you didn't. But if you did, you had found your people, So for some of the younger folks on here that maybe didn't have to, dig their anime out of a rock, how did y'all?
I'm sorry. I'm hollering.
What is considered a rock is the question, though. Is it? I guess. Well, look, we'll put it like this. My nerd story kind of began much like the same my HBCU story. My parents were also nerds, just as much as they're HBCU alum. My mom actually named me after Shauna Treskelion from the original Star Trek series. And she was a big Trekkie. She was really big into the original series and also Captain Picard's, Starship Enterprise. I'm not sure which series that is. Yeah, Next Generation. So she was really into that. She was also really into X-Files, Stargate. She was just really into sci-fi and period pieces as well. My father is a Star Wars fan, and apparently when he was growing up, James Earl Jones was like that guy.
Oh yeah.
So like he really fell in love with Darth Vader, and pretty much a lot of like the characters that James Earl Jones did, growing up or whatever. So that was pretty much a lot of my early childhood. I kind of got into it more as like an academic nerd. Dinosaurs were actually my first love. So anything dinosaur related, I had all the Land Before Time VHS tapes. I like when Jurassic Park came out, that was my jam. I followed all the Jurassic Park movies. And I was really big into like ancient empires, especially Egypt. We all went through an Egypt phase because it was like the most popular Black society that was like, you could easily find resources to study it, right? And then like I was really part of I'm an 80s baby, 90s kid. So like that's when a lot of the Saturday morning cartoons started coming around. X-Men was a really big influence on my life, of course, because of Storm. Like that was the first time I saw a Black woman like who was like really powerful and wise and just kind of like the person that all the other people on the show looked up to or looked towards for guidance, really. Even Professor X would like look towards her for guidance. And then in my like tween years, that's when Toonami hit. And, that was my formal introduction to anime, I would say, because prior to that, I was watching Speed Racer, I had seen Ronin Warriors, and I just didn't know it was anime, until after the fact. But I got acclimated to Toonami. Sailor Moon was was in the first part of that circuit. I think it was Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z. It might have been Gundam Wing, and one other show, and an American show. Look, I don't even remember the American show. But that like really changed my life. Sailor Moon was like my religion for a very long time. It kind of still is, Growing up, Jupiter was my girl, but I've grown to understand Mars a lot more. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand why she was so short-tempered and just over it on a lot of things. But yeah, like that was essentially, I kind of ran the gauntlet. And now, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I remember when Blade first came out. So that was like, had a really big impact. And I'm really glad to see how Marvel as a cinematic universe has come to appreciate more of like the impact that Blade has had, not just for them, but like for DC and other films too. So anyway, that's my long end of the short of it, being the wet behind the ears one in the group chat.
Oh, you're on mute.
Well, you're muted.
Yeah, you muted.
Okay, I don't know. My computer just froze up like that. Oh my, that's weird. Can you still hear me?
Hear you, but your face
We
is
still hear you.
Yes. Oh, and last thing I'll say is this: when I was in college,
Okay, hold on. Let's see what's going on.
Oh, you?
Uh-oh.
We can hear you. Oh, well,
He
you just
muted
muted.
himself
He
now.
just
Okay.
muted himself.
Okay.
Go ahead, Penny CC. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, last thing I'll say is when I was in college, day one, I found my nerd tribe. I guess I have the profile of a nerd. I've always had one, at least until I guess an adult. Now apparently I'm hot according to some, but whatever. There's another story for another day, right, Joy? So these guys pretty much picked me out of a lineup. They saw me moving in on campus. They were like, hey, you should come hang out with us sometime, stop by our room, because we were in the same dorm. It was a co-ed dorm, the honors dorm, as a matter of fact. And all the rooms were divided into suites. There were 5 rooms to each suite, 2 person per room, and they all shared a common bathroom, right? So they told me to come down to their suite, much against my better judgment. I did. Don't go to if you're in college, ladies, don't go to no random guy's room. I do not condone that. But when I went, I go in, and it was like a whole mini con in that space. Like, it was literally monitors everywhere. They're watching anime on one of them. Another monitor, they're playing Guitar Hero. Another monitor, they're playing Tekken. And that essentially became like outside of my actual, like, I slept in my dorm, but I lived in their dorm. Like, that was pretty much my experience. So, and that, I wanted to bring that up because that experience pretty much conceptualized what is HBCU Con, and wanting to recreate that space on a grand scale. That was pretty much the spark that made it all kind of come together. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Trying to get back to the way that felt then, and because I think people even in the chat have mentioned like going to an HBCU. It feels like being at home, and homecoming also feels like a family reunion.
Come on, homecoming.
Yep.
Yes, God, I'm ready. I am ready for our homecoming this year. We got Florida A&M this year, so I'm so happy. Oh yes. It's gonna be a time in Montgomery, Alabama. I am excited.
That hasn't gone so well for y'all.
I don't care nothing about it going well. We just have a time when y'all come to the city.
Oh,
Not a winning time, but that's okay.
You worry about the game. We worry about the vibes.
And the vibe is always the vibe. So, I mean, I'm a person who goes back to homecoming every year. So, that's a thing. Ever since I think 2018, I've been going back every year, and I've been, seasonally back in the day. You all have been dropping all of these anime series, and when I was a kid, born in '68, so by the time I was watching these things, we had Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers.
Yep.
We also had Ultraman, but that wasn't anime, that was live action. And we had Giant Robot. And so those were the things that kind of framed out. And of course, the old toy Godzilla movies.
I love
that. So when I was watching, and then when it came back as G-Force, I was like, this is Battle of the Planet. I don't understand why is this? And then when I learned later that it was a translation of the original Japanese Gatchaman, I was like, oh. And then I understood a little bit more about what had been excised out of the American versions. So we didn't have, you could watch those things. Most people I knew about those series. But like I said, nerd culture wasn't abandoned in the places that I lived, because I lived in a lot of white spaces and I was a theater kid. So I was already kind of in like this side community, cleaved off of the rest. But because I was friends with a broad swath of the population at my school, the soccer dudes, the wrestling people, the thespian society, I was in concert choir, all those artistic sorts of things, you could easily bump into some of the people who were appreciating what was the nascent emergence of anime into American culture in the 70s, going into the 80s. And by the time I got to FAMU, if there were people who liked those shows, then you could talk about those things. Or if there were people who were into comic books, because I had thousands of comic books at home, those were people that you could talk to. But like I said, it was just a different aspect of the culture at that time. And I remember I had an old Timex watch, and it was a leather strap, and I could take the strap off of one end so I could flip it up like the boy in Giant Robot. I used to pretend I was calling Giant Robot with my little flip watch. Robot never came. It was kind of disappointing. But to watch those missiles come into his fingers and and all that, and Ultraman and the different ways Ultraman could do stuff, I was just really a fan of it. And I was born right after. Well, I was born during the run of Star Trek, but of course it was in syndication repeats every afternoon. And I watched all of the episodes. And when the movie came out, I was there for the movie. I saw Star Wars in its first theatrical run. We were living in Reston, Virginia at the time. So all of that. And Roots came on during the original Roots. So that wasn't nerd. Oh, it wasn't geek, but I guess it was kind of nerd because it was very
historic.
Very Black, yes. Fun fact, my great uncle was friends with Alex Haley. He worked for the Library of Congress, and he helped, Alex Haley would frequent the Library of Congress to conduct his research for the Roots book series. So my uncle was part of a conglomerate of Black folks who worked at the Library of Congress who helped him conduct that research.
You know what? It is such a small world out here, because, as I'm listening to y'all talking, I'm thinking about how we all have different things that we are connected with. And just the fact that sometimes we think about history as something that other people create or that happened a long time ago, but we're living it right now. Like just the same way you said your uncle was involved with Alex Haley. I graduated with, and I'm name dropping because I do it all the time. I graduated with Stacey Abrams, and I was at Georgia Tech the same time as the mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens. Like, we are friends. I know him, and not see him and wave from a distance. Like, I got his number, know him. I never use it because I'm afraid that if I call him, he won't answer the phone. But sometimes we forget that we are a part of living history and that we are involved in what people are going to look back on in 15 years and say, oh, this is where it started, like HBCU Con, this is where it started. But Mark, you said you had some questions that you wanted to ask us.
Yes, I do. I saw a comment back in the beginning about marching bands in HBCUs, and I kind of want to piggyback off of that. I myself am a band nerd and wanted to go to Clark for marching and all this and that. So I want to ask Isiah specifically, why are HBCU marching bands so much more better and entertaining and just musically, classically trained than any other marching band from any other college or university?
Now, this is Black History Month, so can I be me?
Yes.
Please do.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest about it. It is because you cannot compete where you can't compare. That's the first thing. First of all, when it comes down to HBCU marching band and the culture of and the essence of it, the level of discipline that goes within it, the amount of hours that we put in trying to produce an 8.5-minute show, sometimes 10, the level of intensity that goes into it, also the amount of musicianship that goes within producing those kind of things, and to memorize the formations and memorize the music. And that's another thing that most people don't understand. When we in those stands, we don't have any paper in front of us. We know this at the top. We're playing this off the top of our heads. Versus like when you go to see our PWI brothers and sisters or whatever, they have the leers on their top of their horns and they're flipping real quick to go to this, that, and the third. No, we doing this by rote memorization. I never forget the fall of 2012 when I got to Alabama State and they gave me my first march, my full military march, and it was Purple Carnival. And I'm like, wait a minute, what in the world is this piece of music? Because coming out of high school, we didn't play nothing like this. I wasn't exposed. And, I was coming from one of them poor black high schools. You did marching band, you had to sell fruit to go to Mardi Gras. It is what it is. So, and I'm like, okay, so now when I actually kind of got into the rhythm and learning those kind of pieces of things, it's just what it was. And on top of that, when it comes down to an HBCU marching band, that is the thing that most people come to the game to see. We want to see the band cut up on the field. We want to see.
Nobody, I don't know who Morehouse has ever played in a homecoming game.
We don't care. We
Fun fact, much like Mission College, we lost homecoming 4 years in a row.
It's just like prime example, because you knew back then, even just coming from a standpoint of the 60s up to now, just seeing some of the old clips, you just knew that you had to be there because you never know what the band was going to play. You could have just heard the song. I'm just gonna take for instance, Make It Last Forever by Keith Sweat could have just came on the radio during that era. And here you are, you had an HBCU band that you're at, and they didn't play that whole song on field. And you were like, wait a minute, that song was just on the radio and it's on CD. How in the world did they learn it that fast? And just the fact that, we come when you see us, we're gonna bring something, we're gonna bring the entertainment, we want to bring a hype. There's no need for no DJ at no football game. We are the DJ, we are the jukebox. We come to, that's what our job is. We come to hype up the crowd. We didn't sit up here and spend, because we didn't go to practice at 5 o'clock and sometimes didn't get out to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning for nothing. We learned this music.
I think that is the major difference that I've seen between, because sometimes they're the PWIs try to get jiggy with it with their performances. There's still a level of mechanicalness to it, and I think that's the difference. Where, to your point about like reading music in front of you, you can't put your heart and soul into it because you don't know it, right? You're not living it. Whereas if you know your instrument, then you can play whatever song you just heard yesterday on the radio, by melody or whatever. I think one of the more popular things that goes around is that Al Jarreau song that guy's playing in the stands from like 15 years ago.
Black and Blues.
Yes, Black and Blues. I think identifying the band as an attraction instead of a distraction is the difference. People are coming to see the band perform at an HBCU, whereas the band is just something to do until the football team comes back out at a PWI.
It's also
go ahead.
I was just going to say there's also a level of like essence and soul that just can't be replicated, regardless of how much you get the mechanics right. You could practice till it hurt. You know what I'm saying? But it's just it's almost like when people say, like, you can copy the recipe, but it's still not going to taste the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same. And I feel like going to a HBCU, first of all, one of my favorite parts of living on campus or even living in the vicinity of a college is just the lead up to homecoming, and you can hear the band practice. And that is one of my favorite things. It's one of the things I miss most about living on campus. And I even liken like the HBCU performances versus PWI marching bands to like Greek life, you know what I mean? And the step shows and the party walks, and how you see like a lot of predominantly white fraternities and sororities will try to emulate it. but it still don't hit the same. You know what I mean?
Can't blame the alpha.
And it can't.
still don't
You
hit
want the rhythm.
same.
You want the rhythm, but don't want our blues. I'm gonna leave that with you.
Yeah, fact, talk about it, and that's why I won't hit the same. You know, because
It won't hit the same.
Hits different than, you know, appreciation hits different from appropriation always. You know?
Oh,
Yes.
Mhm.
And
I think to your point, Mark, one of the things that was special about being at FAMU in the 80s with the Marching 100 is that, you know, first of all, in the first Super Bowl, Grambling was one of the 2 marching bands that was featured during halftime. And then Florida A&M accompanied Prince in his Super Bowl appearance. And because we happened to be the invitee of the French government to perform during their bicentennial, you know, all of those sorts of things kind of stepped up the prominence and increased the profile of HBCU bands from something that was very internally focused to our own HBCU families into something that was appreciated on the world stage. And to that extent, that's what Joy was talking about when you see some of these other PWIs trying to emulate. And one of the things that is most interesting to me is like KK Psi now. KK Psi at an HBCU was like a D10 organization.
yes.
KK Psi and Tau Beta Sigma and the marching band too. And Isiah can speak to this. The Marching 100 was a frat. Some people also pledged a D9 organization. More people in the band pledged a band frat than pledged a D9 organization. But there were some who did both. So one of my pro fights was the drum major in the band. But the thing about an HBCU band that definitely is set apart, at homecoming, you will see people. They're not in their uniforms anymore. They probably don't fit so well. But they will be on the sidelines, especially the sousaphones. Those sousaphones are on the sidelines and they are performing with those younger band members because it is family, and homecoming is about family more than anything. And so, you know, even though we are at different institutions, you know, we're in the SWAC now. We were in the MEAC when I was in school, but we're in the SWAC now.
You should have been here the whole time.
Yeah. So that sort of rivalry especially extends to the bands, because Isiah does have it right. There are a couple of programs that are less storied. I mean, FAMU has had a pretty strong run on the athletic side, but the Marching 100 stands as its own thing.
Its own thing. Yeah, they are not, like I said, it's not like just some add-on to sports. They are their own entity, you know?
Yeah.
It's like even when you go ahead.
Real quick. The first time I noticed, like outside of Howard and going, you know, up there to watch their band at their games, the Southern Classic used to come on TV every single year between Grambling and Southern. And my mom, that was like appointment television for her. It was like, all right, the game should be almost near halftime. Turn to because I want to see the bands battle. Like you, and yeah, we watched the Southern Classic strictly for. We didn't care who won between Grambling and Southern. That was for their alumni.
Yeah.
Members of other HBCUs who turned into that game were only watching for the halftime show. And if you probably look back at the data, the ratings spiked for that. That moment for halftime, and then probably went back down to whatever it was for the game, because again, the game is for the alumni. But you know, that for me, that's where like, okay, these are bands, and like you said, there was no sheet music in front of them. They're playing from memorization. You know, the formations, everything was like all up here. I'm like, all these other PWI, like Michigan don't do this, Florida don't do this, Alabama don't do this, Ohio State don't do, like, oh, this is different. So
they're definitely trying. They're trying.
Now they're trying. Yes, for the last 2 decades, they've stepped it up and tried, because they've had a couple of moments go viral every now and then on the internet, to which we'll be in the comments talking about they got that from this HBCU, they got that from this HBCU, and then lo and behold, you find out that whoever's directing their band is an HBCU alum.
Right. That's why I say I blame the alphas. And because I blame the alphas. I say it again, because the moment I watched Bring It On, about a PWI high school stealing moves from inner city black
okay.
high school.
Mhm.
And then the first cheer that they stole was "Burr, it's cold in here."
Yes.
What alpha has been teaching them this? I know you did. And then when I'm not saying all the time, but when I tend to see a little bit with other sororities, fraternities that are focused on marginalized communities, but sometimes even the PWI white fraternities and everything, it always seems like they done stole the alpha train from somebody.
Wow.
You
They
know,
do
and then
love
you
a
got
good
this.
train, don't they?
Yes, they do it a lot. And I was like, I blame the alphas. They weren't gatekeeping enough. They gave all their stuff away.
Wow.
And now you got all
Not
these random
gatekeeping.
letters out here.
I feel like it was just the easiest thing. You know what I mean?
It is
like,
easy.
quote unquote, no shade to the alphas, because I know
No.
y'all be training. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, if you aggy about it, like it's
Yeah.
it's just like a little two-step.
Yeah, it's a little two-step emphasis on the one. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's levels to it and everything, but I want to touch on just really quickly, like appropriation versus appreciation that you mentioned a moment ago, CC, the MVP. Because I've seen like bands or either school bands or like citywide bands or performers in like the Philippines. And they are killing Jackson State's choreography, right down to the shimmy, right? And I was like, okay, so y'all been watching this on the internet, and people say, how come Black folks don't gatekeep their culture? We're not giving it away, but the internet exists, and somebody with a cell phone took something, somebody else just watched it 600 times, and it was like, we can do this. And I also feel like I would call that appreciation, because they will tell you, we got this from Jackson State. We saw this college on the internet and we borrowed their choreography because it was so wonderful, versus, some of the PWIs that will try it without practicing, without perfecting it. Because the Philippines kids got it. When I'm talking perfect, Jackson State would have been proud. But I see other ones kind of half-ass it, lukewarm it, and also want to pretend that they just came up with this out the blue.
Yeah.
Straight
There's definitely a lot of like nuance to the conversation, and it goes so far beyond just the HBCU experience.
Yes.
I think about K-pop. I think about, shoot, fried chicken, like you name it. It's been politicized, if it comes from Black culture. And even like, shoot, when you meant like, I'm still traumatized from the Sprite step off. Like we do not talk about Bruno. So like that whole situation just really hit me. And I can blame the K's for that one, child. Because if you saw the documentary, no tea, no shade to y'all, but the K's on that campus did teach those girls how to step. So, but I think that there's so much nuance to it. Because even in the appreciation of it, and I think that's why giving credit is so important, because of this anti-Blackness that is so subconscious and insidious on a global scale, that they're automatically, groups like that are automatically going to get more visibility and more attention simply because they're not Black, even though they're doing Black things, right? So that's kind of the bit about it. And where do you, to an extent, I feel like sometimes we gatekeep things that shouldn't be gatekept, you know what I mean? And then we open the floodgates on things that I feel like should be held close to the chest, if that makes sense. Thinking about like LGBTQ issues and the intersection of like Black and LGBTQ, or Black and folks who come from abroad, and that's in Pan-Africanism and that sort of thing, versus like who gets to say the N-word and, those sorts of things. So there's just a lot of different dynamics to it. I think we could talk about it all night, but I think that just going back to giving credit, and even posing to your question about like the Black community and supporting HBCUs more, I think that part of it is so important. And I think that that's ultimately what I've come to see as my life's work, is trying to dismantle the internalized anti-Blackness that exists amongst ourselves. Because, until we like find a way to absolve ourselves of that, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside,
That is such a deep conversation to get into, is the internalized disdain,
Mm-hmm.
disrespect sometimes for HBCUs from people who didn't go there, or whether they didn't go to college at all, or whether they went to the PWI and they got some kind of sour grapes about the whole thing. But Spelman was just ranked #1 women's college in the country. So take that, Brown, whoever else y'all might be out there. And it wasn't #1 black college for women, #1 college for women. So the education is there. There's 150 or so HBCUs, and all of them turn out stellar alumni without fail, because at least from my experience, they center you, or they anchor you in your Blackness as table stakes. You don't have to apologize for it or pretend that it's not a central part of your life. Everything is super Black all the time, which means now we just focus on getting this education and making sure that we're coming out on top, #1 all the time. Do your best, instead of, hey, slow down, you're making us look bad. I'm not making you look bad. You need to do better. I'm telling you, Spelman tells you do better every day. Every day. But I think that's something that when we talk about that internalized racism, I've seen people on the internet saying things like the education isn't there, and we don't even need HBCUs because what do they even do anymore? It seems kind of elitist to me, and I'm like, it's not elitist. It's expensive, but it's not elitist. Yeah.
And I actually dated someone with that mindset once upon a time. I don't want to get into the details, but she found, we started dating. She went to a PWI. She learned I went to Morehouse, and was like, what's the point of an HBCU anymore? Like, I get it in their inception, but they don't serve a purpose. And this is like, I was in my late 20s when I was dating her. She was like in her mid 30s. And I was like looking at her sideways, like, what do you mean there's no point to an HBCU? Like, the experiences I had there, I would have never gotten at a PWI. The camaraderie, the bonding and friendships that I still have to this day. All of my best friendships are from college, not high school. Like, everything that shaped me as I am right now is from college, not high school. And the way people talk about high school, that's the way I talk about college.
Yeah.
Because that, for me, was, like I said, that was the social awakening that I had. That pretty much allowed me to come out of my shell and be myself. But it also showed me, like you said, I don't have to reduce myself to be comfortable around others. Like, I can outwardly be myself and unapologetic about it. And it's like, if you don't like it, there's a door, exit, stage left. And so yeah, like, that relationship didn't last long, but just the fact that she came out her mouth and said, like, what's the purpose of HBCUs now? Because they've served their purpose. There's no need for them anymore. And it's like, huh? And then you think about 2020 and what happened that summer, and HBCUs across the country see at minimum 50% attendance increase. That fall.
Remember what happened was at Texas A&M, where they wanted to keep their racist language in their school song, and it wasn't even like the alma mater; it was just a school fight song. And folks were like, "Hey, this is kind of racist," and they're like, "You shut up and run the ball." And next thing you know, people stopped applying and started looking for HBCUs to go to. Then you got the whole thing with what's your boy's name, Neon Dion, and his trek around the school. For the highs and lows of it all, but I was loving at that point the recognition people were getting for, if you want your child to be safe and educated, send them to an HBCU. Matter of fact, one of the things we lost during integration was all the Black teachers, because all of a sudden the best teachers were white, because racism was still very real. So they fired a lot of the Black teachers because they weren't capable or qualified enough to teach these white kids. And then the Black kids were getting bussed in and everywhere. It was a mess, and they sent the white teachers there. And so we lost Black educators. And somewhere along the way, it kind of it bled into losing focus on Black excellence from an academic standpoint, because we started believing the rhetoric, that internalized hate of, we're not smart enough. Black people are good at math. I'm a whole ass engineer, right? Tell me Black people aren't good at math. What's wrong with you? But
they also gutted public education after Brown versus Board of Education. And then a lot of the white people who could afford it basically opened private academies, and they sent their students there and their teachers there, you know. So of course,
It was the
we're the
equivalent
first
of
hired, last hired, first fired. So when they was making those cuts, a lot of Black teachers got cut.
it was the equivalent of cementing the swimming pool, right? But Mark, you said you had a few more questions for us.
Yes. So again, we're about to wind down for the show, but I do have a couple of questions I want to ask everybody. Miss Cece from DC, I have to ask you. I interviewed you a couple of years ago, and we talked about you starting HBCU Con, now Geek Fest. Let's go back to that. Tell us, how did you combine nerdom with HBCU? What was the inspiration behind Geek Fest?
Wow. Okay. Well, I think for me, like, it wasn't even something that I combined. I just had to kind of create the narrative, because for me, it was already there. Like, the combination was always there. They were never mutually exclusive for me. They were always intertwined. It was Black culture, HBCU culture, nerd culture. It wasn't until I got older, particularly when I started going to high school in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is known for its diversity. But it's also like one of the most affluent counties in the country. So it's a very different dynamic as opposed to like Chocolate City or PG County. And that it was like I hungered for the kinship and the camaraderie that I had when I was living in DC. And then when I got to the HBCU experience, particularly when I was telling you all about the experience in my dorm, you know, with my nerd friends that really conceptualized it. Going from the moment I went to my first con, Baltimore Comic-Con 2015, I started to get this idea of combining Greek life, combining like a Greek convention with a quintessential nerd convention, right? And working for other organizations and kind of helping them get their selves off the ground gave me the fire to ultimately take myself off the ground. And the one thing I wanted to hone in on when I thought about creating the organization is like, when's the last time I felt like I was completely accepted for all of who I was, not just the nerdy aspect, but, you know, the leftist or political Black freedom fighter liberationist aspect, you know, me, my womanhood and all those different things. And I thought about that experience, and I just wanted to take it and recreate it on a grand scale, while also like encompassing what it means to go to a HBCU and really that homecoming experience, like you all had mentioned earlier. So at the core of it, there's the nerd aspect, but also like there's the Greek life aspect. There's, you know, like the academic aspect of it. And I think a lot of those things are already kind of interwoven into like cons, you know, when you go to panels and things like that. But just having that HBCU focus, the conversations hit different. Even compared to like other like Black conventions, the conversations hit different, the vibe hits different. And that's something that I would say to any person who's because like I get a lot of people who come to me about, I'm thinking about starting a con, you know, like, what should I do? And the first thing I say to them, I'm like, before you get an LLC or whatever, or start an Instagram or whatever, I said the first question you need to ask yourself is, what is it about your convention that's going to separate it from every other convention? Because they are popping up, it seems like, one every other day, and everybody's got a very limited budget. Most people do, at least, and they're going to select a certain amount of cons during the year that they're going to go to, right? And why should they prioritize yours? So that's a question that I continue to ask myself. And I think not like the purpose of it has always been there for me. It's always been locked in for a long time, but just finding a way to articulate that and market it to the world in a way where I can make it sustainable while retaining the integrity of my values and why I started it in the first place. So I know that was a very long answer, but I'm very passionate about it. So I thank you all for listening.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I was listening to you talk about, you know, why you started and the feeling that you want, I had this idea that this would be so cool if you got like all the former band members to like do like a, I don't know, presentation, whatever, at the con, and instead of like just old band music, they're doing like anime theme songs.
That would be hot. I'm here for it. Yeah. No, I'm here for it. And I really that's why I'm really like so big on it, because I want folks like yourselves, and even if you didn't go to a HBCU, I really want this to kind of be a homecoming experience that we can all call our own. And I really want folks to like take ownership of it in a way where like, I'm not going to, expect you to help pay the bills, so to speak, but I want you to like really feel like you can come through, be yourself, and know that you will be celebrated and that you will add value to the space and the space will add value to you.
And to your point about, even if you didn't go to HBCU, every time I go to homecoming, there's other people there that didn't go to Morehouse or Spelman or Clark or whatever. And when I've been to other people's homecoming, nobody asked me what year did I graduate, what dorm was I in. They're just like, hey, you want to play? Because you, at that one time in my life, whenever I go back, my skin color is my entrance. Like you look like you went here. Nobody's checking ID at the door. Just if you want to be here, you want to be a part of this, then you're welcome to come and be a part of this. And I think your Geek Fest is the same. Like whether you went to an HBCU or not, if you want to be here and you want to be a part of this, then come on through. Yeah.
Yep.
Just don't be acting up when you.
Yeah, don't be acting funny. Don't be weird. But for whatever that means now. But I agree. And like I've been to A&T homecomings, I've been to other HBCUs, and it's very much the same vibe. So that's kind of like essentially what we want to what we strive to recreate.
All right, Mark, what else you got for us?
So as like you mentioned, I am someone who didn't go to HBCU. I went to I wouldn't even call it a PWI. I went to a strictly for-profit institution. So hearing everyone's stories about their college experience at HBCU kind of makes me regret that kind of decision of not going. But I do want to ask everyone before we go, what is your most fondest memory of going to your specific HBCU? And what is the one thing that you will forever take away with you from your institution?
Oh wow!
Since I'm the baby on the line, I take that one. So, my fondest memory of being at my HBCU, well, I'm gonna try to sum it up. But it's two, but I'm gonna try my best. My very first one was the fall of 2012, and I had the opportunity to do the SWAC NEAC challenge against Bethune-Cookman, and we actually did a parade in Disney World. So being a kid from Selma, Alabama, getting the opportunity to march with a HBCU band program and march through Disney World and perform for people that I don't know and potentially performing on TV for the first time, that's a memory that I can stand on a Disney World resort property. I was like, I made it. Because that's big time, because you don't hear about kids from my area doing stuff like that. And also because I am Greek and I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma, spring of 15, doing my, let me use the correct wording because, we Greek affiliations, doing my new member presentation. And for those that don't know what that means, your probate or your coming out show, whatever you want to call it. And I was, when it was time for me to reveal myself, I was the live five. I'm the live five of my line. So at that time, there was a big song that came. The artist by the name of Mr. Biggs had a song called "Ho Check." Notice what I said, "Ho Check." Now, mind you, it's like he just recently died. That was my coming out song, and I performed to it and did my whole reveal. And I was the only one on my line to have the whole acadome at a standing ovation. So to have the whole acadome, just the whole university gym, just like, wait a minute, who is that? So yeah, that's some moments that I can never forget. And actually seeing my mom go crazy my mom had a custom shirt that said my mom number 5. My dad being a pastor and whatnot, don't know nothing about Greek life. He is in a black suit and his royal blue tie. I'm like, Daddy, you look like one of us, but we understand why you a man of the cloth, so you had to dress up yet with the good clothes on.
Wow, so, you were like every black stereotype. You went to HBCU, you a D9, you a pastor's kid. What aren't you?
what am I not? I can't even ask you that because I'm me. But I do wanted to add a quick comment real quick before we move on. There was a comment about the band side real quick. I want to speak back on it. One thing about the HBCU bands is that the fact that when you name our institutions, our band names come with it. So that's one thing about it. So you can say Alabama State University, the Mighty Marching Hornets, home of the Mighty Marching Hornets. Texas Southern, Ocean of Soul. You're gonna say Alcorn State, home of Alcorn State. Source Power. Then you have World Fame from Grambling. Then you got all these other programs, Slam U, Marching 100, Marching Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman. And you know, it's just those things about our Jackson State, Sonny Boom of the South. You know, those things come up in our conversations. It just is what it is. You can't that swag of an HBCU band, you just can't find it anywhere. You just not. So
Period.
I will tell you quickly my best moments and most memorable moments. So I entered Spelman the fall of '91, and the Rodney King riots was spring of '92. So my freshman year, we out in the streets cutting up. Stacy was out there with a bullhorn, because she's been the same person her entire life. She is that chick. But so then in '94, I was still in college, and that was when I think OJ got acquitted. And so, you know, there was some things going on then too. So we had a whole lot of being in the streets doing stuff when I was in college. But the most memorable thing actually was by the time I transferred to Georgia Tech from Spelman, because I was still heavy in like the National Society of Black Engineers and all this stuff. And I used to hang out with the national president of NSBE because he went to Georgia Tech. And so this one time, the National Convention for the National Society of Black Engineers was down in Miami. And I knew that this guy, I'm not going to call his name because, you know, he married with kids now, but this guy always knew where the party was. And so you wanted to follow him, because if you followed him, you was going to be where the party was at. And so my little junior year self and another one of my friends too, we get in the truck with President and his crew. And he told us, I don't know if y'all want to go or we going. And we're like, no, we want to go because y'all know where the party's at. And we ended up at Rolex with 3 X's on the end, which is one of Luke Skywalker's clubs in Miami. And we wondered why. We thought we was cool. We got to get in, and the guy looked at us. He goes, ladies get in free. And I was like, we walk in. You talk about culture shock. We walk in, and it's just TNA from wall to wall. We realize this is a fully nude club. You know what I'm saying? Like the dancers didn't bother with. They literally had just a garter on for the dollars.
You had a time.
And we rode with them, so we couldn't even leave. We didn't even know where we were.
You said Luke Skywalker. I automatically knew what was about to pop off after that sentence.
We went from girl, look at me, don't look nowhere else, just me and you. We're gonna look at each other all night and do nothing. So finally, you know, you end up, you can't help but look, and then like 30 minutes later, be like, oh, she ain't shaking shit. Like, you know, we judging people. So that is my most memorable moment in my entire college career, was tricking myself into going to Rolex.
No pun intended.
Right.
I'm sorry. I
had the time last night.
I promise I'll be brief.
Perfect.
I promise I'll be brief for my story.
2 thumbs up, CC. 2 thumbs up. I love that.
Oh, you're welcome. So I was really torn between my stories, because alternative spring break, which humble brag, I started it at Bowie. That was actually one of my biggest experiences at my HBCU. But I have to top it. But Joy, you actually made me realize this, or remember this, that I was on Bowie State's campus the year President Barack Obama won his first election. So that was a night to remember. That was probably like the single best, like if I had to boil it down to a single moment in time, that was the moment. I was riding in my car going down Maryland 197, which is the road that Bowie's on. It's very dark in a certain part. So I was going down, and it was literally called on the radio as I was driving. So I'm like tripping as I'm driving in the car by myself, you know, like I'm geeking. I'm like, and I pulled up to the campus, and there's a promenade where like a lot of the dorms kind of align along the promenade. And when I parked, I'm going back to my dorm, and literally all along the promenade, people were just out dancing, partying. People were blasting "My President is Black" out the window. It was just a really magical moment. So to be on an HBCU campus, you know, like living on campus when the first Black president was elected, that was a moment for me, definitely.
For me, it's actually two things, and I'm gonna make this real brief. The first is that as a math major, going through elementary, high school, all of my teachers, white and male, right? Maybe one white woman in grade school who, because she was a nun. Get to college, all of my math professors, Black, or with the exception of two, one white male and I can't remember where the other one's from, but he wasn't a Black male, but he was a minority. That helped a lot because I got to, you know, when they say these are my office hours, feel free to come by, and you can come by and talk to them about literally anything. That helps a lot in the college environment, especially like you're away from home, because I'm from DC. So I, like Joy, I want to get as far away from DC as possible. All my 6 choices to go to school were not anywhere remotely close to DC. The second thing that stands out to me in college is I'm a gamer. I love video games. Doesn't matter what it is now, but coming out in, you know, coming down here in 95, I was heavily into sports games and beat 'em ups and meeting people who love those same games as well. So I'm talking about full on multiple seasons of Madden, stand up till 6 a.m. We got class in 2 hours, like shower, go to the cafeteria, eat breakfast, and we're gonna finish the season after class tonight. So yeah, that was a big deal as well.
Okay. What else you got for us, Mark?
That's pretty much it. That's
I'm sorry. Tom.
So it's hard to pick because, frankly, from my emergence onto the yard through my graduation, where my university president literally grabbed me and hugged me on stage. I was one of 3 people he did that to. It was kind of like a series of successive moments that were all pretty incredible. But I will highlight a couple of things. One, because I was pledging above ground in the above ground system, when we crossed and had our probate, it was in Jake Gaither Gym with like 3,500 people. And they didn't know it, but we had already crossed. And so we had our just red shirts on. And in the middle of our routine, we ripped off our shirts and it had symbols underneath it. And the crowd went nuts. Then I would say I had an article published in Nesby magazine as a journalism major about my, it was a research project on changing trends in Black media perceptions in film, which was published by Nesby, which was pretty good. I hosted the FAMU Today program in my senior year. And then I won $50,000 from my institution on BET for the Honda Campus All-Star Challenge. So, and that was before I got elected to Grand Chapter office in my fraternity as an undergrad. So my HBCU experience was lit, as the young kids say. I had a stone cold groove almost the entire time. So, you know, if anybody had a more better HBCU experience across, about the only thing I didn't do was get to be in the flag corps in the 100, so I could wear a 100 jersey. That was the only thing I did not do on campus. I was willing to carry that thing because I wanted to wear a 100. I wanted to wear a 100 shirt, and I could not. But that's why I go back to homecoming every year, because I loved being an HBCU student.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank y'all so much for this. This episode actually meant a lot to me, and I've learned so much and have so many regrets about not going to an HBCU myself.
Mark, before you close out, I want to change your vocabulary real quick because it's never too late. It's never too late. We have
Oh, no.
it's too many of our institutions that have online programs now, and where you still have time to, like, even if you just can't do nothing but take a few classes at a time, you still can have it. You can still be a student and walk across that stage at the end of the day. Now, if you want, I can't. I'm just telling you. So don't never just say never, because we have people that graduate from our institutions who sometimes walk on the stage at the age of 60, 70, sometimes 80 years old, just not getting their bachelor's degree. I had somebody in my class that was 60 years old taking alongside classes with me. So you can do it. So if you ever just find a time and just slow down and say, hey, I can work it in, go for it, because it's still not too late. Because guess what? They was here before you was born, and they're going to be here after we leave this earth. So
true. That is facts.
And you have 3 options being here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and if you don't need another degree, you can also just come to homecoming. I told you they're not checking IDs. And Morehouse will sell anybody a ticket to the tailgate. They don't care who you are. It's the same price. Get you a ticket to the tailgate, get your little wristband, and then it's like it's a vendor's fair through there. There's all kind of food and merch and stuff, and you can stop by different tents and hear different music and just be partying with folks. It is like all of the family reunions in one. Like all the little, you can go by the Delta's table, you can go by the Class of 95's table, all this kind of stuff, and get some ribs from everybody, and ain't nobody gonna say nothing, because as long as you act like you belong there, they're not gonna question you about it. Just show up with James and roll with him.
Yeah, it's helpful to have a docent to take you through homecoming. So FAMU homecoming is October 24th. So if you decide you're gonna come to FAMU homecoming, I'm gonna be there, and so you can look me up, and I'll make sure you have a blast.
All right, I might take you up on that. But again, thank you all so much for coming on. Before we go, just tell everybody where they can find you on the internet if they want to follow you.
I'll start off in the corner here. So I am Joy Stevens. You can find me online on Instagram and Threads at Joyride08. And if you want some inspirational life coaching, you can check out my YouTube channel, Moment of Joy. I'm also on the I keep doing it. I'm on the Blerdography podcast, as well as the Moana Nui podcast on most nights. So just check me out.
You can follow me at Tom is Talking on the things, but I'm not like a super duper poster there. I do post a fair amount on Facebook, and of course, each and every week, most weeks, not this week, but most weeks, Steel Sharpen Steel on Facebook and YouTube. That's Steel Sharpen Steel with the steel background, not the knife sharpening people, and not the white people. Steel Sharpen Steel. It's a square logo.
Wow.
CC.
Yes. So you can find me personally on all platforms at CC the MVP. Well, at least I'm primarily on Instagram and Facebook, but I also TikTok a little bit because that's what the kids are doing now. And same with HBCUCon at HBCUCon on all platforms. I also was remiss in the website at hbcucon.org. So make sure you check that out. You can also purchase tickets through our Instagram page, our Facebook page. We got a Facebook event for it. So yeah, thanks you guys. Really happy to be part of this conversation. And thank you all for doing this. This is really cool.
Isiah.
Yeah, amen. And there it is. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at _Agent Meep. That's agent.m.e.e.p. It's a long story behind I got the Instagram name. I'm not getting into it tonight because we're about to get ready to go to bed because some of us got to go to work in the morning.
Someone's got to go to work in 20 minutes.
Exactly. Prime example. Boom. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. And also, hey, if you just so happen to see me at your nearest con, hey, come and say hi. I'm going to be the guy with the fan teaching the line dances and things. So... So in the next con I will be at, so if you at BlerdCon, come see me. Hey, how you doing? Hey, cousin.
I'll be at BlerdCon. Yeah, I'm gonna check you out.
Hey, come on, cousin. Hey.
All right, you can find me on Facebook under my name, James Herndon, IG and Threads at Miles Simmons. You normally find me at the Moana Nui Network, first Thursday every month with the opinionated variants of 616, second Wednesday every month, Geek Speak on Sports. last Tuesday every month with Joy, Distery, random Wednesday during the month, what you watching after dark, Key after dark. We do get a little unhinged in there. And yeah, background here on this show every Monday.
All right, and again, I am Mark. You are watching Blerdography. You can find me everywhere on the internet under Blerdography, same name, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, some other stuff Dana just put me on, Blerdography across the board. Join us live next Monday, February 23rd, for another masterclass in content creation where I'll be joined by some legends who have gone full-time being content creators. So that's going to be a fun episode full of nothing but adult money. So join us next week. And until then, I'll see y'all when I see y'all. Peace.
Good night.
Yeah. Be somebody tonight, yeah. I love it how you move it, how you wind it up. We can jump into it, we can line it up. We can stay slow with you, me. We can stay slow with you, me. Yeah. Be somebody tonight, doing that dance, digging that dance. I love. Be somebody tonight, be somebody tonight. Pull up on me. We've got so much to see. Maybe I can show you around. Lay your top with the top down.